Okay, it'd be good to start with a little bit of understanding in terms of how you arrived in the IT industry, if it was something you'd always wanted to get involved with, or it was more of a coincidence. Yeah, just your journey to getting into the IT industry.
Sure. So, first of all, yes, the IT industry has always been something I've been fascinated about. I started there almost 30 years ago, so a lot of change has happened since. It definitely promised and delivered on very significant advancements along those years. And with that, my curiosity as well as commitment to be part of this innovation and change for the better. Has actually gone along all those years. Originally, actually, I did my MBA in Fontainebleau in France and in SAD. Then I was recruited on campus to Accenture in London. I worked there for 2 years in the high tech strategy division, and I think that that's where I was really glued to this area, just in terms of seeing what it can do, how much it can bring things forward. We had, several projects at the time, and I had a taste of different areas in the high tech industry. Specifically, I was fascinated by the strategy part, where you really sort of, plan forward, then you try to find what are the resources you can actually, tie in and leverage to get things happen. And the IT and tech industry have been delivering quite amazing things in this area.
Okay, and so from Accenture, where you sort of started out, and to where you are today, just give us a bit of a history as to how your career developed from that start. It'd be good to understand.
So after Accenture was a consulting company, which I had a very good time and very productive experiences, and have a very warm part in my heart for that organization. I've moved on to the startup industry. I spent 2 years in a startup that actually didn't take off at the end and succeed. But I learned a lot from the process, just from what we were doing, what we tried, how things look when they don't succeed. It's also important to learn. It's not most of the startups and innovation parts in tech don't succeed, and you need to understand how that also looks. So you identify it quick enough, and you're able to redirect the ship to the right directions. So that was one startup. Afterwards, I worked in a large company. That was a very important experience, just understanding a bit the point of view of how it looks when you're in a very big company and somebody from a smaller innovative company reaches out and wants to get your attention or get a deal done with the organization. Understanding how to work with those large organizations, corporations, how they're built, what are the dynamics, what are the incentives of people you actually meet along the way, was a very valuable experience. I spent there almost 4 years. And following that, I set the first startup company alongside with Guy Ariely, who is the other co-founder and person I'm going a long way with along all of those years. So that was the first startup company that actually I established myself alongside with Guy. And with that, we moved forward and had a very interesting, I'd say, a very interesting experience of around 10 years, where we built a company from scratch.
Okay, and you're now at Blink.io, so it'd be good to understand what your current role is. I know, and I think later on in the conversation we'll dig in a bit more as to what Blink.io does. But yeah, just what is your job role at the moment?
So again, with Guy Ariely, who's the other co-founder, we set up Blink. I'm the co-founder and CEO, and the company is doing some really cool stuff in an area which is going through major changes, which we can touch on later on.
Okay, yeah. And in terms of your sort of career development progression, I'm just wondering, when you encountered challenges or difficult situations, would you characterize them mainly as just what anyone would have encountered, or do you think being a woman in what's quite a male dominated industry, were you aware sometimes that the fact that you were a woman was cause you the problems? Not, not that it was your fault clearly, but that people couldn't handle that or whatever. Just your thoughts, I suppose, as to what you've encountered during your career.
I think that I've never actually thought about myself in any different way than anyone else in the meeting rooms that I attended. Retroactively, yes, I understand that most of the time I would not be sort of talked to start with, but rather the male part in our duo. But in general, once people figure things out, I don't really think there was any sort of barrier being a woman. I think if anything, it gives you're a bit different than anyone else in the room, which sometimes is a good way to get business focus on stuff you want to move forward. I never actually felt pushed back or put aside.
And in terms of folks that may have helped you along the way, sort of mentoring or support, have you had some good individuals to give you that support during your career, or have you pretty much had to go it alone?
I think there are a lot of very good, coaching and organizations and individuals that put a lot of their time in both, growing in general, entrepreneurs and specifically women entrepreneurs. I must admit that along my way, as we were a bootstrap company, and I really didn't have a lot of time for anything. I had my two girls uh, during that period. And I was, everything was between work and home. I didn't have a lot of opportunity to benefit from some of these activities and organizations and very powerful women and individuals that help along the way. I do think that, in afterthought today, it would have been helpful and right to actually free up some time for those type of encounters. I personally wasn't involved or benefited from them just because of my sort of very condensed timeline.
And in terms of the sort of attitudes to equality and DEI more generally, have you seen the industry change over the time you've been involved with it? Hopefully for the better. Have you seen much change, or do you think it's still, I won't say stuck in the dark ages, but still got quite a way to go?
I think there's always a way to go. I think the most important thing is actually to give women in general and perhaps actually young girls, because I think it's something that if you're actually brought up to think about the world that you are equal and can do anything, then there is nothing later on that you need in a way to fix. I think a lot of it is in the mindset and the way that people think about things, and I just think that from a very young age, girls and women are directed in one direction or expected to expect certain things, and perhaps men, in other directions. But I think that as long as from the very baseline, girls are encouraged, to be exposed to technology, to be part of this world, to understand that there is nothing inherent, that they're lesser in any way. There is no reason for them later on not to flourish in it. So I think that, for sure, I think that that's the critical point at that age. I think that a lot has changed. If you go today to meetings with VCs in the past, it was almost an all male type of encounter. Today, you find in most of the funds, you find, women partners, super, powerful, intelligent, and experienced entrepreneurs. I think there's still a lot to be done. Instead, I think that women in general shy away from entrepreneurship, and in general from tech, because of misconceptions that are brought forward at very early age. For me personally, I have two daughters. Both of them are on a tech focused, high school path, because I truly believe that's super important. And I try to, get them from a very young age, understand that, they can do anything, and, tech is no exception.
And in terms of any sort of lessons or wisdom you've picked up along the way, is there any sort of observations you'd like to share as to, you know, that might be helpful to others, wherever they might be on their career within the tech space?
I think, look, we've taken Guy and I the very extreme path of building up a startup with zero financing. So we're totally bootstrapped. That's a very, I'd say, challenging yet strengthening path, if you want, because you really can't make, mistakes. You make a mistake, you're out of business the next quarter. So I think what it did provide me is, first of all, a lot of self-confidence in our ability as a team, guys and mine, to actually build and take, the right decisions and cope with the wrong decisions quickly and fix them with no type of ego or other external consideration. So I think that's super important. But I think the number one thing is that if you actually specifically in entrepreneurship, you need to, check whatever idea you have. Once you believe in it, you should stick around. And the most important thing is actually to take it through. You might come around, investors that might not be interested to invest. You might find customers who are skeptical. You might have employees who don't believe in all sorts of things you're asking to be done. But at the end of the day, if at the very core you understand where you're going and you believe in it, you'll get it done. And there are endless, things, including the fact that at the very beginning, we, in our previous company, we didn't manage to raise any funding. We were bootstrapped, not by choice, but basically initially, at least by reality. And, a very simple thing would be just to say, all right, so, we're giving up on this idea, direction, whatever, we're shifting gears somewhere else. We didn't do that because we actually really believed in what we were doing. And eventually, we managed to get customers and revenues before we ever got money from investors. And we did quite well just by that. So, but I think that's important. And today, we try to keep that very clear in our mind that you always need to very strongly believe in what you're doing based on obviously an understanding and whatever you check. But once you're there, you should, in a way, you should get feedback, but you should not be pushed, aside because the feedback is sometimes negative. There is feedback that's negative and is incorrect. There is feedback that is positive and is incorrect. You need to be able to filter through everything you're getting and just, keep your paths in the right direction.
And I'm guessing in your current position, you also have the opportunity to clearly shape the culture of your organization. So do you feel any sort of responsibility in particular to or double responsibility, bearing in mind you're a female, I guess in still a male dominant industry, to make sure there's, diversity, inclusion, equality and all that? Or do you just think that's just good business practice, so everyone should do it? Or do you think, I say, you've got a particular sort of drive to do that?
I'm always merit-based, so I don't want to, ever take someone because he is of a certain category in society. I believe that people perform best when they're in an environment that is merit-based. I just believe they're excellent women as well as, other categories that are underrepresented today in startup tech, which are they're just an excellent choice. I never take because they are women. I take them because they're the best. And there are many of them and they're great. And I think that women in general bring a lot of capabilities that are super significant for succeeding in an entrepreneurship environment, from the ability to interact very well with people, the ability to think very to the point without any external considerations, the ability to multitask, the ability to communicate well. I mean, I think there are so many, and some of our best programmers and developers along the years have been women, and I think that there is absolutely no reason, to try and justify women based on the fact they're women, just on the merits of the fact they're good at what they're doing.
Okay, and then maybe just before we finish, it'd be good to understand a little bit more about the organization. So Blink.io, can you give us more detail as to what it is, what opportunity you saw, and now what does the company do?
So Blink.io is basically takes testing to the sort of next generation in the AI world. The idea is software testing is done today in a very intensive, manual, slow way. And the idea is actually to have that done autonomously. So basically, we've built a virtual software tester that is operated by artificial intelligence. So you can think about, instead of a human tester, you have a tester where we implemented artificial intelligence instead of its brain, and it has hands and eyes to navigate around the digital environment it is testing, whether it's a website or an application. And it takes all the decisions and actually creates automated scripts for testing and maintains them autonomously without any human intervention. This really offloads a lot of the challenge in software development, which today is bottlenecked by the testing part in the chain, and enables to deliver very quickly high quality software in a way that is very very sophisticated and leveraging the newest technology in generative AI.
Okay, and I'm guess you're very well qualified to answer this next one, which is clearly the world is getting excited by AI, and the predictions as to how big it's going to get are substantial. So I'd just be fascinated your own thoughts as to what AI you think will deliver. I guess the good, the bad, and the ugly, because clearly there are some worries about it, but there's some great positives. So just your thoughts as to how the AI industry might be developing.
I think AI is quite an amazing technology, probably the biggest leap forward that I've seen during my years in the tech industry, and it holds a lot of good stuff. Obviously, like any other technology, you can take it to all sorts of directions. And I hope that as much as regulation will be required, it will be in place to make sure the technology is used for the best. But it's a very powerful technology, and it has much more we can actually benefit from it if it's managed properly than it might than the threats it might provide. I think that I'm just sort of looking in some areas that are of interest for me, like in medical, in pharma, in so many areas where this can really accelerate great things and can bring humanity a lot of value. So it's really very much all about what you do with it, like, by the way, any other technology. And I'm really hopeful that, it will be taken for the best.
Okay, so it sounds like you're an AI optimist, shall we say, which is good. But also just back to the sort of workplace, are you similarly optimistic that equality will be established, if not soon, in a reasonable period of time, or do you just maybe slightly worry that there will always be, when it comes to the IT industry, it will have a certain should we say personnel, and that will be often male dominated? Just your thoughts, I suppose, as to that.
I think it's all about education at younger ages, and that's where I'm personally trying also to be involved in. I think that once the education and the mindset, I'd say it's when I think about education, it's not about what is taught in the classroom. It's not about having a lot of mathematics and computer science. It's just about treating young girls and during the years when they're forming their ability to think about themselves in the world as total equals, and to the male counterparts. And I think that once that is in place, you don't need to fix anything. I don't think that fixing at a later stage is effective. I think that many times it creates a counter reaction, because when you put people that are not necessarily merit based in places just because of their gender or minority classification, it a lot of the times backfires because that's what other people look at and assume a successful person of this whatever category is attributed to is capable of. And I think that's not the right thing to do. I believe that, you know, education at very basic age, if you get that right, if you give girls, you know, the role model to look up to, that's what actually makes the change in mind. Then you don't need to fix things. You don't need to push and incentivize in all sorts of unnatural or not merit-based ways.
Okay, it's been great to chat. Some lovely insights into both Blink.io and yourself, your career, and some of the industry issues. So really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Tal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip.